Andrei Kelin, Russia's ambassador to the UK, said British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss had tried to instigate the Russia-Ukraine conflict by pushing for the West to continue supplying Kyiv in a position he argued would be no good for Ukraine. During an interview on the BBC handout via Reuters, Russia's ambassador to the UK has accused British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss of being very belligerent and wanting to prolong the conflict in Ukraine. Andrei Kelin said Ms. Truss has tried to instigate the conflict by pushing for the West to continue supplying Kyiv in a position he argued would be no good for Ukraine. Ms. Truss, during a visit to the Czech Republic on Friday, told Western allies they needed to be ready for the long haul when it came to supporting Ukraine's resistance. With no talk of ceasefires or appeasing Putin. We need to make sure that Ukraine wins and that Russia withdraws and that we never see this type of Russian aggression again, she said. Mr. Kelin said Ms. Truss's stance showed that London was not interested in bringing about an end to the conflict, which Moscow started in February when it ordered an invasion of its neighbor. Attempts to take the entire country were shelved due to fierce Ukrainian opposition, particularly around the Kremlin's forces regrouped and since last month have instead focused their firepower on taking the Donbas region in the east, where Russian-backed separatists have held ground for 8 years. The Russian ambassador, speaking to the BBC's Sunday morning program, said, "She's very belligerent, your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Liz. She's neither a professional military man or she's not been, for a long time at this position, but she's very belligerent. If she would like to continue the war, she will prolongate the and it is up to her, of course, to make this statement or to make these deeds. But it will be no good for Ukraine, it will be no good for European peace and stability, and Europe itself." It is not the first time Kremlin figures have looked to discredit Ms. Truss following talks in Moscow between the cabinet minister and her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in February before the invasion started. The foreign minister characterized the meeting as a conversation between deaf and dumb, claiming Ms. Truss did not listen to Russia's. In a lengthy interview, Mr. Kelin said Britain's encouragement of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his troops would only delay a peace. Prime Minister Boris Johnson told Mr. Zelensky during a phone call on Saturday that the UK would continue to support the heroic Ukrainian armed forces, including by providing the equipment they need. On the stalemate between Kyiv and Moscow over a ceasefire, Mr. Kelin added, "And what we have from London, it is not the desire to finalize it or we hear every day new appeals to send more weapons to Ukraine, to fight until the last Ukrainian soldier, to continue the conflict and no negotiation until Russia will be beaten." The ambassador said Russian troops were involved in a limited operation and not a war. He argued Moscow had come to the aid of 2 independent republics. This was a reference to the Kremlin-backed breakaways in Donetsk and Luhansk, major areas in the industrialized Donbas. Mr. Kelin said that Russia's advance was about protecting Russian people. The official said Russian President Vladimir Putin would not use nuclear weapons in the conflict, stating how there were very strict rules on their use, with nuclear missiles only allowed to be deployed when the existence of the state is in. It has nothing to do with the current operation, he added. The battle for Donbas has centered on Severodonetsk and Lysychansk in recent weeks, with constant shelling being focused on the last major areas under Ukrainian control in the Luhansk province. Ukrainian officials reported that Russian forces were storming the eastern city of Severodonetsk, where the fighting has knocked out power and mobile phone services and terrorized civilians who have not fled. Mr. Zelensky, following a trip to Ukraine's second-largest city Kharkiv on Sunday and a rare visit to the eastern front line, described the situation in Donbas as indescribably difficult. Ukrainian fighters pushed Russian forces back from positions near the city several weeks ago, but it remains under fire. Kyiv has warned the West that unless its troops are supplied with more advanced weapons, it will not be able to halt the Russian